Hi there and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips to ace any HR test. These tips will not only help you take the test, but actually ace the exam. This could be the SHRM certification, PHR, SPHR, or any other HR test you are preparing for. The tips we will be discussing are differentiating factors, absolute terms, think different, trust yourself, and answer the question. Let's begin with tip number 1, differentiating factors. Differentiating factors are words like best, least, quickest, most, and we are going to look for these words in the questions or the answer to help us decipher the correct answer. These are the indicators in the question which will assist us in choosing the correct answer rather than the answer which just may be correct. So let's see how we can apply this theory into practice with an example. Your company has been conducting employee surveys regularly to get feedback from employees on their satisfaction with business practices and policies. You have obtained much quantifiable data to this end. However, you want to expand the results of the survey to include qualitative perspectives. How will you accomplish this in the most efficient and cost-effective manner? The options are individual interviews with all employees, socializing with the employees, bringing in outside observers, and employee focus groups. Now let's try and find the differentiating factor to help us find the correct answer. So if we understand the question, this is a situation-based question and the actual question is only in the last line after the situation has been explained, which is how will you accomplish this in the most efficient and cost-effective manner? So in this case, we can classify the word most as the differentiating factor. In addition, we also need to take note of cost-effective, which is another differentiating factor. So let's begin with the theory of elimination and eliminate the most obvious wrong answer or answers. So when we read through the options, for sure, it can't be socializing with employees. So that's easy. Let's eliminate option B. So now we are left with 3 options and we are looking for the most, remember the term most efficient and cost-effective option, right? So option A is individual interviews with all employees. Again, the differentiating factor here is the word all. Notice that in the question, the number of employees has not been mentioned, so it can be any number. So what if your company has over 1,000 employees? Would it really be efficient for us to conduct individual interviews for over 1,000 employees? Obviously not. So we can eliminate option A as well. Now you're left with option C and option D. Option C is bringing in outside observers. Do you think that this would be an effective option considering that we are bringing in external observers? Well, I don't think so. It would be more cost effective if we could do this using our in-house resources. So again, we can get rid of option C in this case. What remains now is option D. We still have to ensure that this option checks all the boxes though. So let's see. Employee focus groups. Now I am going to assume here that we all know what are employee focus groups, and this will come from actually studying the HR terms and preparing ourselves for the exam. So are employee focus groups efficient to begin with? Well, yes they are. This would be the most efficient option because out of 1,000 employees, we could hold meetings for about a group of 30 employees, which would include representation from various departments. Secondly, would it be cost effective? Of course it would be. Definitely more efficient than bringing in external observers. So in this case, we are certain that we will select option D. Great. Let's move on to tip number 2, which is absolute terms. Now we will look for absolute terms in a question or in the answers as differentiating factors. Some examples of absolute terms would be words like always, never, all, must. Now these can be tricky. However, we must understand that HR is a very subjective topic. Absolutes are rare. So we should try and use these absolute terms to try and guide our answer choice. So let's see how this works in action with an example. When implementing an HRIS for your organization, it's best to use a continuous integration approach. What is the primary benefit of doing this? Option A, using a continuous integration approach will ensure that all components are completed. B, most problems can be identified and fixed as they manifest themselves. C, this will ensure that permanent solutions are found for all bugs. And D, all bugs are fixed during implementation. So integration is always flawless, right? So first let's break down the question. So I will assume that you already know what is an HRIS and continuous integration approach. If you don't, then check out the other videos on my channel to learn about these HR concepts and many more. I post HR related videos every week, so make sure you subscribe, and if this video is adding value to your learning, then leave a comment and give this video a like. So getting back to the question, what is the primary benefit of doing this? Now again, we can find a differentiating factor in the question, which is the word primary, and we can understand that this means the main benefit of doing this, right? So not just one of the benefits, but the main benefit. We now need to ask ourselves the question, primary benefit of doing what? And we can rephrase the question as, what is the main benefit of using a continuous integration approach when implementing an HRIS? This just makes the question a lot more palatable and easier to understand. Great. Let's look at the options now. Option A is, using a continuous integration approach will ensure that all components are completed. Now in this statement, we find two absolute terms, all and completed. However, the question uses the verb implement as an ongoing process and not a final outcome. Implementing is an ongoing process, whereas the word completed is a final outcome. So we can eliminate this option as well. Next is option B. Most problems can be identified and fixed as they manifest themselves. Okay, so in this statement, I don't see any absolute terms. It says most problems and not all problems. In addition, as they manifest themselves, tell me that this is an ongoing process which matches the question style. So let's park this one for now and we'll come back to it later. Option C. This will ensure that permanent solutions are found for all bugs. Now this is an easy one. By now I am sure you are able to pick up the absolute term, which in this case is all bugs and permanent solution. So we can easily eliminate this option. Great. Let's look at option D. All bugs are fixed during implementation, so integration is always flawless. This one is easy too. We can find the words all bugs and always flawless, which are both absolute terms. So this option is out of the equation as well. Now let's go back to option B. Most problems can be identified and fixed as they manifest themselves. This sounds like the most correct answer and checks all the boxes. Now it took us almost 3 minutes, I believe, to come up to this conclusion, and we don't have this kind of time when taking an exam. However, it took us 3 minutes because I am trying to explain this to you. The more you understand this process and practice using it when doing practice tests, the easier and faster you will be at it. It will almost become second nature to you. Tip number 3, think different. Now think like an SHRM or a PHR or whatever exam you are taking, and there is a certain way they expect you to think and behave in certain situations. Obviously, this is strictly based on their model of HR. So if you want to pass the exam, give them what they want and think like how they want you to think. You need to be able to prove to them that you have incorporated all that you have learned while preparing for the exam, and now you are able to implement the theories you learned in real life situations. This will be tested with situational-based questions. If you're sitting for an HR exam, then it's likely that you already have a few years of experience working in HR, and this is a good thing. However, this can also hinder your test-taking result. If you answer the questions based only on your own experiences and how you dealt with a similar situation in your organization, then this may be detrimental to your chances of answering a situational question correctly. Once again, I repeat, think like they want you to think. Let's look at an example. Jane, one of the team members working on the quarterly reports for the department, is not pulling her weight. She has missed meetings, been late in meeting deadlines, and resists any attempt by other team members to correct this behavior. How should you approach the situation to facilitate the best possible result? Option A is meet with other members of the team to find out what they want from Jane. Option B, meet with the supervisor of the department to see what he is doing to correct the situation. Option C, tell Jane that if she does not cooperate with the team, she will be harshly disciplined, giving her a chance to correct her behavior. And finally, option D, educate Jane about what her behavior is doing to the team members, the project, and the company. offer coaching to help her improve the situation. Now I'm just going to give out this answer to this one, which is option D. However, what if you have been working with a manager whose leadership style was dictatorial? Then you might think that option C is the correct answer because that is something that you have experienced in your workplace. So this is why it is important to remember that we cannot always call on our experiences in the workplace to come up with the correct answer, but must rely on what we have learned in preparation for the exam. In this case, the correct answer is option D. Before I get to the next tip, I want to share something with you. I am planning on hosting a webinar session where I go through test taking tips just like these and much more, along with examples. Do you think this would add value to your test prep needs? And would you be interested in attending this webinar? Let me know in the comments what you think. And while you are there, also hit that like button and subscribe. Great. Let's continue to tip number 5. Trust yourself. This is the number one reason why most people get situational based questions wrong. We tend to second guess ourselves. Most times though, your first instinct is the correct one. It's just that it is so tempting to overthink a question and doubt yourself, especially when you find the question really easy. And you're almost telling yourself, this can't be so easy, right? Am I missing something here? Once we start over analyzing it, then we are setting ourselves up to fail. Remember that in most HR tests, we have 4 hours to answer 160 questions or so. So that's 1.5 minutes or 90 seconds per question. And trust me when I say this, for 130 questions, you will not need more than 45 seconds if you trust in yourself and follow your first instinct. Now this means that you will have additional time for 30 remaining questions which you are uncertain about. Also remember, don't spend too much time on a question you are uncertain about, just flag it and come back to it later. This way, you will have more time at the end of the exam to break down those 30 questions with the techniques we spoke about earlier, like differentiating factors, absolute terms, and basically trusting yourself. Tip number 5, answer every question. Yes, as obvious as it sounds, you'll be surprised by how many test takers don't answer all the questions. The best part about most of these tests is that there is no negative scoring for wrong answers. Remember, even if you close your eyes and pick an option and record the answer, then you're giving yourself a 25% chance of getting that answer correct. And if you use the theory of elimination technique we spoke about earlier, then suddenly you're giving yourself a 50% chance. Furthermore, use the other 2 tips we spoke about earlier, and now you're giving yourself a 75% chance of getting that answer correct. If you have prepared yourself well and used all the strategies and tips I spoke about in this video, then I firmly believe that you will pass the exam. However, there is also the knowledge side of things, and if you are looking to gain valuable HR knowledge and best practices, then subscribe to my channel. I release HR related content every week. Best of luck in your exam.